Hello and welcome to Thinking Outside the Box. I'm Tim Box.
And I'm Britt Box.
We talk about all things to do with your mental health, emotional well-being and how to navigate your own mind in these strange times. But we're not doctors, so please don't confuse any of our advice for medical advice. And even though we do tend to come at it with a light-hearted approach, please don't think we trivialise any of the things we talk about on this podcast, because we certainly don't. But because we come from a different perspective, we've called it Thinking Outside the Box. Okay, Britt, it's episode 19.
It is.
Amazing. Now, if I was thinking before when I was doing my notes, if we did have a high-tech podcasting studio,
which we don't,
this would be the point where I would drop in some samples from Paul Hardcastle's 1985 classic, 19.
What are you talking about?
Do you not know the song 19?
You've lost me and 99.5% of the people who listen to this.
Here's the thing, right?
All 6 people who listen to this podcast.
They're all out now.
They're out.
Lost. Look, there's a certain generation that absolutely know what I'm talking about.
Oh my God, when you reach a certain age when you start talking about, there's a generation, they don't know they're born.
No, honestly.
They've never had a Freddo for 5p.
Everyone my age, this is exactly why we know the average age of the American soldier in the Vietnam War was 19 years old. Because we were told this in a song in 1985.
Earlier today, listeners, Tim came into the kitchen and he said to me, we don't have to worry about making this podcast exceptionally long. And then he comes in with an obscure reference that nobody gives a shit about.
Look, I thought I would mention the song. You'd go something like, no, 19, and then we'd move on. Because
if it's not year 3000, I'm not interested.
Exactly.
I'm not interested.
Also, it's like, yeah, it might have been 3 years before you were born, but your favourite film is Back to the Future, released in 1985.
It's because it's the best film ever made of all time, and I won't be taking any questions on that.
To be fair, Paul Hardcastle's 19 is not comparable in quality, has to be said. It was the first song that kind of lent into sampling as opposed to any discernibly catchy tune. So, anyway, research.
Yeah, you've lost me.
I'm sure I'm going to get a swathe of people messaging saying, we know 19, Tim.
Anyway,
if
we could.
Anyway, what the hell are we talking about today? Jesus.
We're talking about, can people really change?
Can they really change? And why are we talking about this in particular?
Well, this stemmed from the fact that listeners, you might think I sound a bit different today. You might not notice, but I feel a little bit out of it, and I'm not okay because I've been taken out by hay fever.
Taken out?
I've been taken out. Now, I need to know this, and if anyone's listening and has any sort of personal experience in this, please do hit me up, let me know. So, I am 33 this year. For 29 years of my life, I had never ever suffered from hay fever. Not once, not a single sniffle, nada, nothing.
And yet today...
And then 3 years ago, around the time I turned 30, it hit me like a pollen bomb. Just...
So I'm imagining a pollen bomb now.
That's what they say on the news sometimes. When the pollen's really high, they say we're experiencing a pollen bomb.
Also, I'm imagining a bomber that's coloured like a bee, delivering pollen bombs.
Like a Spitfire, but a bumblebee.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so I'd never had hay fever until 3 years ago, and now every year from mid-May to mid-July, I feel like shit.
Is this the reason why? Because you've never suffered with it before, is this the reason why you complain about it so much now?
Probably. It's awful. My eyes are itchy, my nose is running, I'm on strong antihistamine, so I don't know what day it is. Not that I know what day it is anyway. But I would like to say, that segues nicely, because obviously I've changed as a person.
Well, as in you've got hay fever
now?
Yes,
I'm now a hay fever sufferer. No, the reason I wanted...
The evolution of man.
The reason I wanted to talk about this is because in the news lately, this week, there was an England cricketer. Do you know what? I've literally just looked at his name and it's gone. I think it's Ollie Robinson. That's what I'm going with. Might be wrong.
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that. It sounds like a white guy's cricket name. You know, Ollie Robinson. And he's been suspended for tweets that he put out when he was 18. So I don't know how old cricketers tend to be, but I think he's in his sort of mid to late 20s now anyway. But when he was 18, he tweeted some racist and sexist tweets and these comments, and he's been suspended for them.
Right.
And he's come out and he's apologised, and he said, you know, I've grown, I'm not that person I was. And, there can be a tendency to sort of go, are you just saying that now because you've got caught?
Oh, well, absolutely, yeah. There's definitely a motivation to disown that version of you, isn't there?
Yeah, or do we have the capacity for real change at a deep level?
Well, this is very topical, isn't it? Because the whole cancel culture discussion that's going on in the media a lot of the time and online, it's all about cancelling people for things. A lot of the time, things they've done like quite a long time ago in the past. The person springing to my mind is James Gunn.
Yes,
obviously, as Marvel fans,
director of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and he had a load of tweets from his past. Although he was, to be fair, a legitimately grown, educated adult at the time when he was putting those tweets out. This wasn't a teenager that was just acting on impulse, trying to look cool. I was going to say I think he was trying to look cool.
Yeah,
and I think that was his argument as to why he acted that way in the past. But again, completely disowned that, said, I'm a different person now, I've grown, I've learned.
Absolutely. Like, who can honestly say that they think the same that they did when they were younger? I know personally, I've put the work in and I've changed a lot around just a whole host of different topics around, sexuality, around colour, around race, around all this sorts of stuff. I've educated myself on the things that are acceptable and aren't acceptable.
Well, we can see this, in fact, as culture moves on, because certain things are acceptable in the old days and not so acceptable now.
Well, here's the thing. They were only, and I use air quotes, acceptable in the old days because nobody questioned them. Nobody stopped them.
Well, that's what I mean. We generally, we didn't think about these things, so we were just adopting the attitudes of the people around us, our parents and the people passing on their views and their beliefs. One of the things that springs to mind was, I was watching a video the other day on YouTube about the films of Jim Carrey. Why did I end up watching that? I have no idea. But anyway, I was. And they listed Ace Ventura, and he mentioned that if you rewatch Ace Ventura now, which was obviously amazingly popular, actually, probably that was the single film that made Jim Carrey an absolute international superstar.
Yes.
But there's a lot of really dodgy transgender stuff in it because the villain is transgender, and there's a lot of kind of what we would class now as incredibly sketchy jokes about that side of things.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't translate well. It doesn't age well.
No, and I think aging well, this is the thing as well, because, people talk about, obviously, Friends is, a worldwide phenomenon, a staple, this, that and the other. But diversity very much lacking in it. But this is what I'm getting at, I suppose, is the things that, everyone's got that kind of older relative who at Christmas will say a thing and it'll either go, oh, Nan, stop it,
So my friend Gemma literally has a Nan. They simply refer to as racist Nan.
I mean, and this is the thing. Now, here's where I think the boundary is. You have people like that where you hear the phrase, oh, well, they're set in their ways now. Oh, they can't change now. Yeah. And I think that's fundamental bullshit. Yeah. I think you absolutely can change. You do have the capacity to change.
Well, this is we do change. Yeah. It's almost like without trying, we change. Because when to come back to the Ace Ventura thing, when I watched that film, I wasn't thinking, oh, that's a bit close, isn't it? That transgender stuff. Yeah. I just watched it, laughed along to the bits I thought were funny, and got on with my life. And it's only now with retrospect when I look at it, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, how on earth did they get away with that?
Yes.
So we are changing, because as culture changes and our influences change, it's a natural progression.
Yes.
We literally can't stop it. But this is the interesting thing, isn't it? Because we're talking about, what about those changes that we seek to make deliberately?
Yes.
And this is where we're talking about the cricketer and James Gunn, where it's like, okay, I now need to change. I need to change my views, or this is going to get me in trouble. We were talking as well about Louis C.K.
Yes.
Which is really, I was really upset about Louis C.K.
I was annoyed because I thought he was one of the good ones.
We thought he was one of us, didn't we?
He was one of the good
ones.
And
then it turns out, if you don't know, Louis C.K. Basically got in trouble because he was massively abusing his position.
Yes.
And
well, he was exposing himself in front of actresses and things like that.
Those were the words I was looking for in a tasteful fashion. But you did it quite well there. Well done.
He was getting his dick out.
That was what I was trying not to say. You know what I mean? But there's no way of sugarcoating it, is there?
No, there isn't, and it's awful, and it's really, really bad. And there are a lot of things that happen, and people will do problematic things. So like my one is J.K. Rowling. So if you don't know, I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. You know, I've got a Deathly Hallows tattoo. Like I had a Harry Potter birthday party when I was 30, by the way, not when I was 12. But you know, and I absolutely love it. And J.K. Rowling, who obviously penned the books, has come out to be just the worst. And it's really, it's hurtful to the people who are fans of these people as well. Because then everyone gets separated into these two camps. It's yes, they're right, or no, they're clearly obviously wrong. Yeah. And I fall into the they're clearly obviously wrong section. But here's the thing. I can completely understand that over the years, as we grow, as we learn as people, nobody can hold their hands up and say, I'm a perfect, unproblematic, completely brilliant human being.
Yeah.
But I think there's a big difference between saying and doing something problematic and offensive.
Yes.
Then, as you learn and grow, knowing what you did in the past was problematic and offensive, learning, changing, growing, compared with, no, I know it's problematic and offensive, but I still don't see anything wrong with what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to do it. A la Mandalorian, my girl, the one that I used to like.
Oh, the lady plays
Gina
Carano. Yeah.
So she knew, again, all on Twitter. Twitter seems to be the thing, doesn't it? It's like people can't keep the thoughts in their head. They have to expose them constantly on Twitter in 140 characters.
Well, I think Twitter as well, you just put things out fairly quickly, don't you? It's not like a thought-through post that you've... I mean, I put something on TikTok today. Jesus Christ, it took me about an hour to get it all edited and get it up there. There's a 48-year-old man using TikTok
I tell you something, TikTok is not easy to use. And we'll get young people saying it's actually very easy. And I'm like, look,
Exactly.
Come back to me when you can HTML code a MySpace page. Go away.
Amazing. Who?
But you know, she didn't see anything wrong with what she was talking about or posting, even though there clearly was. So I think it's two different camps: people who want to change and people who don't.
Well, that's a fundamental definition there, and this is, you know, to drag it back on track, because we're not here really to talk about cancel culture, and we're not here either to discuss certain political views and what's right and wrong, because I will
say that was just the thing that prompted me to want to do this episode.
Exactly. But there is that very important distinction, is that whether you want to change or you don't want to change.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's going to be certain ways that we change and we evolve without any effort at all, and almost unable to resist those changes.
Yes.
Because we come under influence as we go through life. But it's about, okay, if I see something about me that I don't like, am I in a position where I can make those changes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? I mean, there's something, so one of the things that I was very keen to change about me, and you know, fundamentally as I've gone through life, I want to be a better man. I want to be the best man I can be. And I recognise that, I mean, we talked about this in the past. In old relationships, yeah, you know what? I've cheated on people in the past, you know, in my relationships. And we were talking about this idea of once a cheater, always a cheater, you know, that sort of thing.
I despise that.
Yeah, you don't like that phrase.
No, well, you know, I've cheated on people in the past. And I've cheated when I was in unhappy relationships, and I was too cowardly to end the relationship instead.
Yeah.
But, you know, so both of us sit here as a married couple who've been together, you know, nearly 8 years this year, who have both openly admitted, yeah, we've cheated in other relationships, but I know I'm not going to cheat in this relationship, and I know you're not going to cheat. And, you know, I've got no fears about you. You've got no fears about me. Exactly.
Well, this is the thing. It's easy for us to say, oh, well, that was in slightly less serious relationships. You know, I don't think either of us would necessarily say that we've cheated in what we would regard as a really serious relationship, as in something that we've committed to. But it's not, I don't think it's our business here to excuse actions of the past, because we're all going to make mistakes, you know. And I still wouldn't want to be a cheater, even in those casual relationships where I engage in that behaviour. It's the version of me I'm not proud of and I don't want to associate with in that sense, you know. Because here's the thing, we're all going to go through life, as I say, and make mistakes. Our job probably is to learn from those mistakes, because that is how we grow. You know, we don't get things right first time. And if we do, we probably haven't learnt much from doing so.
Yes.
We learn from cocking up and then realising we've cocked up and then doing it different. I was thinking about this when I was prepping my notes for this podcast. There is this idea of, if we do something wrong and we get punished for that wrongdoing. So using the example of prison, as a social construct, right? Because a lot of the time...
Have you been to prison?
I haven't been to prison.
So here's a fun fact.
He said touch wood.
I've been in a prison cell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, I mean, circumstances, please.
I knew someone that worked in the prison service, and I was waiting for them to finish once, and I got asked, do you want to be locked up for a little bit? And I was like, all right, that'd be fun. So...
Amazing. I mean, I think that says a lot about your character, but let's not delve too deeply there.
To be fair, it was only like 10 minutes. But yeah, so I was in the...
This doesn't class as if somebody says, have you been to prison? That doesn't mean you can legitimately say, yes, I've been to prison.
So also, I used to live, this is really funny, I used to live... round the corner from a prison. This is a different prison as well, by the way. I used to live round the corner from a prison in a town centre, and whenever I got a taxi or anything like that, they'd be like, "Oh, where to, love?" You know, I'd be like, "Oh, you know the prison?" And they'd say yes, and I would say the street behind it because that's where I lived. Occasionally, when I say, "You know the prison?" they say, "Yeah." I'm like, "There," and the look I would get in the rear view mirror, the look I would get, and I'm like, I'm clearly joking. Why would I be getting a taxi back to prison if I'd broken out?
Well, this is it. You thought better of it.
I've become institutionalised,
Yeah,
and I've gone back.
Exactly. But no, the thing is there, we confuse prison as a method of punishment. But really what it's about, obviously, is rehabilitation. You know, we have certain rules of society.
Yes.
When somebody demonstrates the inability to abide by those rules, we say, right, we've got to lift you out of society because you're going to break all the rules.
Yes.
Yeah. So we put you somewhere until you've learned not to break that rule again. This is why certain crimes have certain sentences, and this is why we have parole hearings, because there is that point where we can say, right, I don't think you're going to do that again. I think you've learnt and you've changed.
Yeah, I think you've been in here long enough, been without things long enough to know.
This is it. And if we perceive somebody as having committed a crime where we don't believe they have the capacity to change, a la all of those murder podcasts that you listen to, where they say, we will never be releasing you. You will never be eligible for parole. Yeah. It's because we've said, well, look, it's not because you've done it so bad that I think we should take away your liberty forever. It's really what they're saying is, what you've done and the attitude you've expressed suggests there's no way you will ever learn your lesson not to do this. And
no
I
remorse.
think, and this is the thing. So it's
what I think's funny is in Victorian times when people committed crimes and did things wrong. It's like, right, you're going to get on a boat and go live in Australia. Yeah, and I just find that whole concept hilarious, and I don't know why. And don't get me wrong, not hilarious because I know even the ship ride over was very dangerous, and a lot of people lost their lives just being sent there. But obviously,
just a long way.
It was a long way. But it's just the whole, I don't know. Oh, you stole a loaf of bread? Yeah. Oh, off to Oz you go.
Well, that's it. We don't want you here breaking our rules.
But just sending them to Australia, I don't know. I've always found that bizarre.
Also, Australia's a lovely place now. I mean, I know all the insects can kill you, apparently, but...
Do you know what? Australia, the idea of Australia terrifies me.
The idea of Australia. The concept of Australia
I'm not okay.
troubling.
I'm not okay with Australia in general. And I think it's because... You know, I have a certain temperature that my body will go up to without, expiring.
Oh, God, when I arrived in Australia, it was 45 degrees C.
I just couldn't. I just lay down on the floor and that would be that.
I left the UK and we got on the train and it was snowing. The next time I was outdoors, it was the airport at Dubbo. And it was 45 degrees, I
mean, did you get the flu? I just feel like it'd make me ill.
Whenever I went to Australia, I would always get crushingly ill straight away because I don't...
Sickly child.
Partly because of the journey. And I think, you're on a plane for 24 hours, so there's a lot of germs flying around, regardless of how much they spray those aerosols around as you're getting off. And it was just... I know what you mean, though, trepidation about Australia, because you think, well, all the spiders...
Everything can kill you.
Are deadly.
Everything can kill you in Australia.
Oh,
everything.
So here's the thing. My then father-in-law, who's an amazing guy, he's literally like Mick Dundee. He's just of the bush, you know what I mean? And we were walking through, because he has a big farm in outback New South Wales, and we were walking through, and I was like, are there any snakes around here? And he said, yes, and make a lot of noise. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, the snakes don't want to attack you or anything. They want to avoid you.
Right.
So if you make noise, they'll move out the way. And he said, to be honest, they can travel faster than you anyway.
Brilliant.
I'm like, what? So even if I ran, the snake could chase me down. But that was a bit of a
This
scary
was
thought.
like the conversation we had yesterday. Yesterday we went to the cinema and we went to go see A Quiet Place 2. Very good film.
Amazing film.
Highly recommend.
Yep.
And on our way out, we kind of said, look, if it came to it, and there were zombies or there were monsters or there was something, and my survival depended on me being able to run to safety, what did I say I would do?
You would just drop on the floor and say, "No, I'm going to die."
Yes.
You
All
go,
right,
"No."
Britt, I've had a lovely life. I'm not running from this.
You would be like that kid that's had enough at the shops. So no,
No,
carry me.
and I would just fall on the floor and die, and that would be that.
Amazing. But yeah, we've segued slightly.
Where were
But
we?
anyway, where were we? What the hell were we talking about? Yeah, so
Prison,
we're talking about prison.
Australia.
Yeah. But the point being that even our justice system recognises the capacity for change.
Yes.
And that's the point of it, that when somebody is released from prison. So my mum used to work with ex-offenders. She used to find them jobs. She used to, interestingly enough, one of the schemes my mum set up was she got ex-offenders to install all the security systems in buildings, which I just thought was hilarious.
That is really funny.
That proves that you trust them now. But obviously, who are you going to get to secure your building? Someone who's used to breaking into them, probably. But anyway, again, segue. But the point being that we have the capacity for change because we are simply not the same person as we were. We have this this character trait. It's a psychological thing. As human beings, this propensity to think that we finished our journey of learning.
Yes.
So we look back on us 5 years ago and we think, God, look at me then. All the things I was doing then, I just didn't know what it was all about. Now I know. And we think we're now full in all of our knowledge.
Yeah.
Then
absolutely not.
in 5 years' time, we'll look back on us now and think, oh my God, why did I say that? What on earth was I thinking?
I know.
We never stop learning and we never stop changing. It's as simple as that.
However, there are some people who will refuse to even accept the idea that they need to change. And by that, I mean, you do get the people that are like, no. Like, I'm perfect as I am. Everything I think is fine. Everything I do is fine. Everything I am is fine. You do get the people that just are so set in their ways. And the thing that always makes me laugh is one of our friends was on a dating website, and she found out that a lot of people had described themselves as what you see is what you get. And she was like, so you're completely one-dimensional then. You're just there's nothing of you.
There's nothing to discover. No hidden depths.
No, this is it. And I can't help but think that, it couldn't be further from the truth. But there are, as I say, there are some people, you do hear it. You hear people that get to a certain age and they're like, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, and they justify staying the same and not doing the work to change because, it's, I'm all in now on this way of doing things. I think as well, you do get people actively resisting change. I think because they couldn't handle the feelings of guilt that they were wrong previously.
Yes.
And their actions are wrong.
So this is actually something that I find really interesting, is that I have noticed in the past, 20 years maybe, a big cultural shift from if you said something and someone corrects you, it used to be, oh, was I wrong about that? I'll do some research into it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping me expand my mind. Now, it's like, no, actually, you're wrong about that. Well, it's my opinion.
Yeah,
it's my opinion.
Everyone's
freedom of speech.
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
Can I just say, I just want to say this right now because it's been getting right on my wick lately. I've been seeing a lot on the socials. This is why I've come off Facebook massively because I hate it over there. I hate it.
Over there.
Facebook
land.
On the Facebook land. Where people will say things that are awful and then say, well, it's my freedom of speech. It's my freedom of speech. I've looked up. Do you know what?
I like the voice you're doing for that person.
You know who I'm talking about. It's that kind of person. I've looked up freedom of speech literally means that you have the freedom to criticise the government without fear of being arrested. Not...
You can say what you like without any impunity.
Yes. Not that you can slag off random people on the internet that you don't know. I think the one I saw, Stacey Solomon, right?
Yeah.
I have no real feelings on Stacey Solomon either way. I think she's nice. I think
Who's
she's
Stacey Solomon? I know the name.
She was on X Factor years ago.
Yes.
She's married to Joe Swash. Or she's with Joe Swash. I don't think they're married, but she's with Joe Swash. They have children.
Yeah.
And she seems lovely. I follow her on social media. She seems really nice.
Yeah.
And she's done a clothing. I promise you, this is relevant. She's done a clothing collaboration with a company, and I saw her advert essentially for this clothing brand on Instagram, on social media, and someone had taken it upon themselves to comment underneath it, saying something along the lines of, "Someone needs to tell her smile looks fake in this." I know. And someone had replied underneath that saying, no, they like, what's wrong? Who hurt you? Basically.
Yeah.
And then she put underneath that, well, it's my freedom of speech.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just you being a dick. Just stop being a dick on social media. Anyway, but what I'm saying is I've gone massively off topic, but freedom of speech doesn't mean that. And people, I feel there has been this change where now people aren't open to changing their opinion or finding out information that could change their opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And they'll justify it by saying, well, we all have our right to our opinion and things like that. But there's a really good...
Because it does feel to me like someone's walked into a maths class and the teacher's gone, 2 + 2 = 4, and someone's gone, well, I think it's 5.
Yeah.
And the teacher's gone, no, I actually know 2 + 2 = 4. And someone's gone, well, it's my opinion, so I'm going to stick there.
Well, there's a really well-known like illustration, isn't there, of 2 people standing either side of a number painted on the floor, and one says it's a 9 and one says it's a 6, and the thing is, both these people are right from their perspective, and then somebody posted this again and commented, actually, one of them is wrong.
Yes.
Because when the number was drawn on the floor, it was meant to be either a 6 or a 9.
Yeah.
And if we looked around and we oriented ourselves to what was around us, like the streets and the path and all that sort of thing, we would
saw
realise
the bigger picture.
We would realise which way it's meant to be facing, and we'd know categorically, is it a 6 or a 9?
Yes.
And that's a lot of the point sometimes, is that, yeah, you know what, we do have our right to have our opinion, but it's okay if somebody points out when you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Your opinion is not fact.
Yeah, I read something the other day about, somebody that I follow saying, always be prepared to accept that the person in front of you knows something you don't.
Exactly.
Because they absolutely 100% do.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if we're willing to learn from that person, we'll probably become a better version of ourselves. But if we're resisting change, all we're doing is saying, right, the way I am now is the way I will always be. I will put all my energy into remaining the same.
Yeah.
And that's actually, although we do have a natural fear of the unknown as human beings, that's fair enough, but it's not our best version of ourselves. It's not actually what we're here to do, is simply stay the same.
Yeah.
We're here to fulfill our purpose. We're here to become the best version of ourselves we can be, because ultimately that's what we will find fulfilling and will bring us joy and happiness, is being able to look in the mirror and say, I'm getting better all the time. Every improvement that I make, yeah. It's no coincidence, that when people stop having a purpose, when people go into retirement, and you get those 2 types of people, one that just does nothing and say, well, I feel like I'm useless now, I've got no purpose, and one that just starts, right, I'm getting hobbies, I'm doing this, starts a DIY. Yeah, it starts a new business, that sort of thing. Those people seem to live longer than the people who just seem to lack purpose. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what fuels us, is our endeavours.
Well, that's one of the reasons I had a massive crisis, didn't I? Because I'd built up this whole big business as She Who Bakes, and then I didn't really bake much anymore, and I didn't really
enjoy baking
much anymore. Yeah, it was just, so it became this thing of, well, who am I?
Yeah,
and I felt really lost, and I
feel like you're standing on a mountaintop screaming, "Who am I?"
Yeah, do you know what? That's what it felt like.
Yeah,
but it just, we all. So I think back to when I was sort of in my teens, when I think back to when I was 18, kind of thing, and even though I think at base level I'm pretty similar, I'm still funny, I'm still quick-witted, I'm still moderately intelligent, but I have changed in so many ways, and thank God.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be the same person I am when I was 18. I know we've spoken about this in a previous episode, but we talk about the people who, were popular at school and now still hang out with all their schoolmates, like all the time, and it's all, all they talk about is like the school days and this, that, and the other, and they've got to, and you kind of think, well, have you not changed? Have you not grown?
Yeah.
Like a relationship I was in for 5 years that I got with in my late teens, and ended in my sort of mid-20s. And I remember at the time they said to me, well, you've changed. And I'm like, well, I bloody hope so.
Yeah, of course.
So it's, and I don't see why you've changed is seen as a bad thing.
Here's the thing, though. The people around you are going to absolutely be most comfortable if you remain exactly as you are now.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't challenge them.
Yeah.
It allows them to compartmentalise you, put you in a little box in their mind and say, right, that's nice and comfortable.
Yes.
So as soon as you change, they're going to naturally resist that, because that's now stretched their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay to perceive resistance to your changes, but carry on anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're not there to keep other people happy. you know. And I'm not saying that as in everyone be selfish. I'm saying that understand your self-interest is paramount.
Yeah.
That's what you're here to do. The only person you're here to keep happy is you.
Yeah.
And that's your duty to you. And you've got to step up and fulfill that duty, you know.
Yeah,
bear that responsibility.
Absolutely. Like, you know, bringing it back to sort of the things that I've changed. I remember maybe about a year ago, it might have been a bit more than a year ago, because it definitely wasn't in the pandemic or the lockdown or anything. But I got an Instagram DM out of the blue from somebody who I don't know, who just said, I've noticed on your stories you're not baking every day.
Wow.
And I'm like,
how dare you?
Yeah. It's like, this is the thing, people put you in boxes,
Yeah.
like you say. They put you in a certain category of, oh, you do the thing. You know, and then when you don't do the thing anymore, you become a slightly different, updated version of you.
Yeah.
It can take everyone else a little bit longer to update.
Yeah.
You know, you see the changes
exactly.
immediately.
Yeah.
But other people don't. So, like, you know, when I was really depressed, you know, I've got my own sort of relationship with depression. That's the best way I can put it. You know, it kind of goes, it ebbs and flows like a river. You know, it's that kind of thing. And I know when I've been in a really bad place years ago, before I met you, I would seldom walk past a mirror without looking at myself and saying, you're nothing, you're a piece of shit. Like, I used to hate myself. I really hated myself. And then I realised, oh, that's not getting me anywhere.
No.
So I changed. And, you know, it wasn't overnight.
No.
And it took a long time. And by the time I'd realised, okay, actually, I'm speaking a lot more kindly to myself nowadays, it took weeks before a close friend of mine said, what are you doing differently? Something's changed.
Yes, exactly.
So I think as well, if you do make any changes to your mental health, your well-being, your life, know that the people around you will take twice as long, if not longer, to update who you are in their sort of filing system.
Yes, exactly.
Because everyone is really ultimately only interested in themselves, and I don't say that in a bad way. No, I say that in a really, really good way.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing I think we've always got to remember, is that when we make changes, it's okay if other people aren't completely on board with them, but and also we're a product of our environment. It's to such a great degree. So if the life you lead and the people you're with have created this version of you, then it's likely that it will take a bit of effort to change that version of you, because you're kind of going against the grain of everything that surrounds you. And, you know, I've had a lot of people that have come to see me who, you know, if I were a life coach, I might be saying, okay, you might need a new group of friends here. You know, because I would have somebody, just as a hypothetical, although based on real events, that you know, come and say to me, okay, I want to stop doing cocaine when I go out of a weekend, you know, but all my mates do it. At the end of the night, it's what we all do. And I'm like,
at the end of the night.
Well, yeah, you know, like when you finish down the pub and you're going on to the club, so not the end of the night.
For
someone like me, it would be the end of the night. In fact, the end of the night would be about 9 o'clock, when other people are just starting to get down to serious drinking.
I was going to say, at the end of the night, you don't want to be doing it just before you go to bed.
Well, you know what I mean? There's a point in the evening where they would say, away to the toilets with us now, that sort of thing.
Can I just say, I had a friend once invite me to something, and he genuinely messaged me and was like, cool, it starts about 10. I was like, I won't be going.
Brilliant. Have fun. I'm sure it will be banging.
Yeah.
But this is the point. So, you know, a life coach version of me might have said, look, maybe you need new friends, because that's the influence that you're coming under, and you feel social pressure to do that with them, or you won't fit in with that group anymore. But the fact the person's sitting there saying, I don't want to be that person anymore. Yeah. Well, you know what? You might need to find the people that this new version of you will fit in with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the person and the type of people that will fuel and enhance this new, better version of you. Yeah. But having said that, you know, I don't think change is impossible, even if we remain in the same environment. No. But it will take others, as you say, longer to adapt to this new version of you and get comfortable with it. Yeah. But you know what? That's their journey, and it's not for you to bear that responsibility of saying, well, you need to get happier with this. You know?
You are not responsible for the version of you that lives in other people's heads.
That is profound. Have you read that somewhere?
No, I made it up.
Brilliant. That's amazing. That's can we get a T-shirt with a quote Britt box? I'll get something on the wall. I'll get something on the wall.
I have many quotes. I tend to accidentally steal quotes. What was the one? I accidentally stole a quote from Thor or something. What was it? Oh, it's what Frida says to Thor when she says the true measure of a man is not.
Oh, what is it now?
Oh, anyway,
it was a banging quote.
It's a very
as well.
good quote. Now, whatever the quote is, I can't remember, but I said that quote, I think on like an Instagram story or something. I said it somewhere.
When it's something she says, I think everyone fails at who they're meant to be.
Ah, that's it. Everyone fails at who they're supposed to be. The true measure of a man is being who you are, or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember.
Nice.
Anyway, I said that somewhere, and then the next thing I know, like 2 weeks later, someone had tagged me in a post and had put, as Britt Box says.
Amazing.
And then there was this quote, and I was like, I'm not going to tell them.
The inspirational wisdom of Britt Box. That'll be your new book.
It's because I know so many movie quotes.
Honestly, of all the profound people to quote, a character in a Marvel film, it's like, I mean, to be fair, I quote Steve Rogers all the time in terms of...
Do you know what I keep quoting lately? It's Korg.
Korg. What profound...
Hello, my name is Korg. I'm kind of like the leader around here. I'm made of rocks, but don't let that intimidate you.
Brilliant. So nothing inspirational.
I'm not going to hurt you unless you made of paper. Just a rock, soap, paper, scissors. They're joking for you. Anyway.
Anyway, I'll edit that bit out, shall I?
No, keep that in. People have to deal with.
Turns out I have, because you've just listened to that. Okay. Well, anyway, let's bring it round. Over 30 minutes in, let's bring it round to mental health, shall we?
Yeah, why
Which is
not?
what we talk about.
Why not?
Thinking outside the box.
I mean, I'd rather let's do movie quotes for one of them, but yeah.
I'm sure we'll come back to some.
Are we ever going to start our movie podcast?
What the box office? I think, now we can go and see movies again. Perhaps we should. But, I mean...
Let us know if you're interested in a separate podcast as well called The Box Office, where we talk movies.
All things movies, favourite flavours of popcorn, things like that. I can't imagine anyone will want to listen to us chatting shit about another topic. Do you think if we did a movie podcast, we'd keep interjecting and segueing into mental health in the same way that in our mental health podcast we interject and talk about movies all the time?
Maybe.
Anyway,
where are we now on your list?
On my list, we're about halfway. No, to be fair, the second half always goes a bit quicker as we realise that we've waffled for the first half of the podcast. So this is okay. The thing that I wanted to mention, the thing where people most doubt they can change.
Yes.
Yeah. Because this is really for me why I thought, let's do this topic. Can we really change? Because for me, I deal with that objection, if you like, that questioning, the self-questioning that we do all the time. People come to me with depression, with anxiety, and that's the thing that they tend to own as part of who they. Oh, it's just me. It's just the way I am. Yeah. Because there's some perception almost like it's genetic or it's hereditary or it's just I was born this way. Yeah. And I see this all the time. But here's the thing. What this means to me when I'm working with somebody, right? We have upgraded and changed thousands and thousands of times in our life. We've done it very naturally. The example I always use is when we're a baby and we're crawling around the floor, and then we work out how to walk on 2 feet. And we're like, hang on, this is easier on the knees. I think I might do this from now on. And we just change.
I'm certain that's not the baby's motivation. This is easier.
That's exactly what's going through the baby's mind. It's like,
my arthritis. Okay, I need to get up.
Yeah, the older version of me will thank me for choosing to walk on 2 feet now. But anyway, that's basically, that's the mechanics there. We find a better way of doing something, we do it better, or we find a better thing to do even, But there are those things where we disqualify us from the option of doing that by simply assuming this is who we are. Now, what I mean by this is that, version A of you to version B of you, that journey is normally automatic.
Yes.
The reason we get stuck the way we are without being able to upgrade in a way that we want to, such as I am now in control of my anxiety or I am no longer depressed or something like that, is because we have these things that I would refer to as barriers.
Yeah.
The things that block our path from A to B. And they take the form of subconscious objections.
Okay.
Reasons why a bit of your mind is saying, you know what, that looks amazing. That would be a much better life. But unfortunately, I can't have it because of this particular thing that's true. Yeah. So it could be, because we would learn to fear this thing because mum and dad feared it, or et cetera, et cetera. Or there was this experience which taught me about this and that, But one of the most common ones is the idea that, of course, I can't just be free of depression because I have depression.
Yeah.
I am depressed. It's like my identity. Yeah. That idea that change isn't possible is what stops our mind from contemplating and strategizing coming out the other side of that particular pattern of thought and response. Do you see what I mean?
I do. It kind of reminds. This might make it sound really trivial, but you'll just have to bear with me. Obviously, my hair is currently a darker auburn red.
Instantly sounds trivial, but yes,
Hear
let's
me
go
out.
for
No,
it.
it gets better. It gets better. I've had my hair all colours, literally blonde, black, blue, green, red, purple, all of it. Right?
Isn't it green?
Mm-hmm.
I missed that.
You didn't know me. You didn't know me when I had full blue hair either. You didn't even know I had like blue on the ends. But I had like full blue hair. I got suspended from school.
I did not know you then. You're absolutely right.
Hang on. Funny story. So I was in the Hazlitt Youth Theatre, and we did a performance of Hair, which we didn't do naked. I just want to point out because we were like 12. I know, it's ridiculous. We all had to have like funky colours in our hair, obviously, because it was meant to be the 70s, 60s, something like that.
70s it is.
70s. And I used this blue stuff that my mum had got, and it was meant to be like wash in, wash out. Like 7 washes later, my hair's still bright blue.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, what are we going to do? And I went to school, and yeah, they suspended me until the blue came out, which was like 2 weeks.
Amazing.
It was really funny. Yeah. Anyway, so I've had my hair all sorts of colours, and the amount of times, and obviously it's always been women, it's not been men, because I don't think men would say this sort of thing to me, but the amount of times over the years I've had women where I've been in shops or have passed me say things like, oh my God, I love your hair. And I would say, thank you so much. Yeah. And they'd be like, I'd love to have my hair X colour. Oh, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't. Yeah. It's all of a sudden, it wasn't because like of my professional job, which I think's bullshit anyway, by the way. Hair colour doesn't stop you doing a job. No. Not because of like, X, Y, Z, but just because, oh no, I couldn't.
Yeah. Or they'll say, I'm not confident enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing would be then, okay, what do you need to do
to get more confidence,
to improve your confidence?
Which we spoke about in our confidence podcast. If you missed that, do check it out. That's a very, very good episode.
Oh, nice plug for another episode.
But it's that thing of people think they can't possibly change.
This is how I am, rather than simply the way I'm doing things at the moment.
Exactly that. Yeah. Like this is on the barcode written underneath my skin, rather than
and that's such a horrible state of affairs to get stuck in, And I get it, because people will say, oh, well, my mum and dad were depressed, so that's why I'm depressed, because it's in my genes. Yeah. And the genetic coding doesn't decide on your mood or your state from moment to moment. No. Even so, there's a lot of research into this, and there is a vague theorized suggestion that there is a genetic component to depression and anxiety. However, as with all social sciences, when we're observing behaviour and response and feelings, it's hella sketchy because there's no way of doing a control experiment. No. If we take 2 people and administer the different drugs, we can see the different responses in them. But when it comes to our emotional well-being, we all have this massively complicated journey of experiences that we can't possibly then say, right, so we are now starting on a level playing field with these, and the thing here is, as a change worker, if you like, myself, somebody that helps people, nice. That's a term we sometimes use in the industry, when we want to be super vague about it. But, I know that the source of most people's, that 99.9% of everything that's going on with people is what they've learned. So,
well, this is what I was about to say. So if you're growing up with a parent who is that way,
precisely, you are learning that outlook on life. So we like consistency as human beings. We like to be able to rely on certain things, so that when I put my foot outside the bed in the morning, it will go down rather than up to the ceiling, that sort of thing. As a result, what we do is we create what we believe reality to be. We're learning, we're sponging things up when we're younger. Imagine if the first thing we were ever taught by our parents, that the world is a dark and bad place, and a depressive outlook is the norm. Then of course we're not going to deliberately adopt that approach, but we certainly will naturally adopt that approach, because we're growing up within a depressive environment. By the same token, most people that have suffered high anxiety levels can normally cite one of their parents being terribly anxious as they were growing up, because they witnessed the person that was looking after them being in some way concerned about safety and well-being all the time. So it's almost like we learn, well, I need to be concerned all the time. I need to be monitoring for what I need to be anxious about next, because that's how we do life, And it happens so much. And then we assume, of course, oh, well, that's what it is. It's my genes. It's passed down in my genes. When really our responses are, to such a great degree, like to the point where anything outside of learnt responses is nominal, is barely worth factoring in. It's everything that we've learnt as we've gone through life,
But
go on.
we can change those things.
We can change those things. That's probably where I should have finished that. Everyone's like, oh, well, that's depressing, isn't it? They're stuck this way. But this is the thing, it's like our burden, if you like, is our parents' beliefs and outlook, because they teach us everything about life as we grow up. You know, we're a blank page when we're born, and we get written on by parents displaying certain attitudes.
Yeah. Honestly, I know I've said it before. I have a multitude. I have a whole book of 1,001 reasons of why I will never be a parent. I like sleep. I like money. I like, I'm not up for it. But that's one of them. Like I'm barely mentally stable as it is. Like the last thing I want to do is be responsible for someone's therapy in 18 years.
Well, this is the thing. It's like parents, they want to, I'm going to tell my kids this. I'm going to teach them this.
Yeah.
It's like, but the things you say to them is like 1% of what they're learning. And what you're actually doing and the attitude you're displaying is the other 99%.
So interestingly about saying, about learned behaviour versus sort of genetics and everything, I've suffered with depression. I know where mine comes from. I know what mine is. Yeah. Fine. I did not come from a household where anyone was depressed or anxious or anything. It was completely opposite. It was like, you can do what you want. The world's as big as your oyster. Go for it, kind of thing. But it was only years and years later.
Can I just say, you've said that phrase again that we need to just let people know we do realise is wrong. we talked about this the other day. So we know the saying is the world's your oyster, yeah? But we remember seeing an episode of The Apprentice where one of the candidates used the phrase, the world's as big as my oyster.
Yeah.
And now we just say it like that. So it's not that...
It's not that we're stupid.
Yeah, but anyway, so carry on, sorry. I just had to qualify that before, couldn't let it go.
I know it's not the world's as big as your oyster. I know that, but I like it and I prefer it. It's like from the get-go.
Do you think one day everyone will just say it that way and they've forgotten?
I'm really hoping so. Yeah. But I learned years later from a friend of my mum's that when my mum was in her 20s and her 30s and her 40s actually, she suffered very badly with depression. But I know this is because my mother had quite a traumatic life.
Yeah.
Which I won't go into detail of, but I know there are things in my mum's life around that time which would absolutely given her a reason to be depressed.
Well, this is it.
And I'm not. What I'm saying is, I guess, is that I didn't then think, oh, gasp, my mum was depressed. I'm depressed. Yeah. That must mean it's genetic.
Well, also because you had a very understandable origin to your depression and that outlook. It wasn't, there was much more likely prime suspects as to why you were depressed than, it must be in my genes. There's, and in my experience, there's always an origin. And this is, I'm not saying everyone that's depressed has had a depressed parent either, in terms of they've had that demonstrated to them. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying there's always a reason, and the reason, in my experience, bearing in mind, well, I've said this on the depression podcast we were talking about, I've asked every client I've seen in the last 10 years, have you ever suffered with depression? And then if they've said yes, I've followed up with, tell me about that. As in, just when was that? What were you going through? Not like, give me your whole history. It's like almost a 20-second, 30-second inquiry. And it's never taken longer than 20 or 30 seconds to realise why they went through depression. Yeah. And it's never because it was in your genes. It's never. And this is why change is possible.
Yes.
Because if we've learned something at this time, we can learn something more productive and more effective for us in a later time.
Absolutely.
We can override that programming. That's what we're, as human beings, we change all the time.
Yeah.
And you can see this. This is one of the great things about social media, is that, Facebook or Instagram will say, so a year ago, you were here doing this with this person. And it might just spark memories about conversations we had on that day when we see the picture of us with our friend or with our relative.
Yeah.
And then we realise instantly, oh God, yeah, I was thinking that way then, wasn't I? Yeah. And even in this short amount of time, I seem to have changed so much.
Yes.
Yeah, because we see it all the time. We see that A and B version of us, and we can recognise the changes we've made. So just because they're happening incrementally and bit by bit, because we're living our lives moment to moment, doesn't mean they're not happening. All we suggest, I suppose, all that I'm suggesting with my clients is that, well, let's take an active role in deciding what changes happen to us in the future.
Yes.
Rather than just letting the world and life decide for us,
Exactly that.
Yeah. So this. I guess this is the message of the podcast. Certainly, it's the message I would like to get across here: is that change is possible, and change is in fact inevitable. Yeah. So some of the change I want to talk about some of the changes I've made.
Oh,
Britt.
very nice.
Yeah. Well, I thought bring it back to personal element. Why not?
not?
While we're here, because
Yeah.
it's our podcast. What the hell? So obviously, the big change that I made. You were talking about getting the other side of your depression and things like that.
Well, getting
Oh God, we're going to do
Dealing with
a deep dive into how we view mental states.
Well,
now.
like I said, I used to think that my goal was to get the other side of depression, and now I don't think it's that. I think it's more, being in a comfortable place, sort of. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I can't quantify it. But anyway, I think being on the other side of it, I think, is a phrase that I used to use that maybe doesn't help me as much as it used to. It puts pressure on me, I think.
Yeah, I accept that it puts, also because you have people that follow you for mental health advice. Yeah. So when you're feeling rough, there's a bit of you that says, I'm letting these people down now because I'm not doing well enough to be able to guide them.
But then I realised me talking about the rough patches actually helps people a lot as well. So.
But the thing I would suggest is that when I talk about you being the other side of depression, I talk about what you went through during the loss of your mum. Yeah. Now, everything that was going on with you at that time was perpetuated by the harsh truth about the loss of your mum. And I don't want to.
I feel like I'm in a therapy session.
Yeah, I know. This is. I'm like, and how?
Go back to what you were saying.
But anyway, I will in a second. Oh, it'd be unlike us to drift off topic, wouldn't it? But that's the point. Is that you managed to qualify that and you managed to work through that incident in your life. Doesn't mean that we're not going to have depressive elements in the future. But this is the point that I'm always making. It's not because, I'm a depressive, I have depression, I have this illness. It's because, you know what, life don't stop happening. Life doesn't stop throwing us unexpected things that we've got to deal with. And I know that I've been through things recently, especially with the lockdown and everything, where I felt like, you know what, I'm drifting into a negative thinking space now. I've got to do some work to get out of this, because it's really easy to kind of neglect your mental health in the same way that we might neglect our physical health by, I've had too many McDonald's this week or something like that. To be fair, one McDonald's is probably too many. But you can do the same with your mental health by not safeguarding your self-care and things like that.
Absolutely.
But anyway, coming back to changes that I feel I've made. Anxiety is one of the things I suffered a lot. As if you heard episode 5 of our podcast, you'll hear my story through social anxiety. It doesn't mean in the future I don't at times feel anxious in social environments if it's a pressure situation.
Or because blue water.
But blue water, surrounded by people going the wrong way against the arrows, which I think is more annoying than worrying. But anyway, so being able to get the other side of that particular phase of my life and upgrade my responses, that was a change I was really pleased to have been able to make. Another thing that I had was a fear of confrontation, which I think was a slight hangover, a slight sort of part of the Venn diagram. It's a little subset of the social anxiety, but I recognised that it's what my friend Nicole Mazzucato would call collateral healing.
Oh, no.
Which is the work that we did on one thing enabled us to bounce on to making other changes quite freely. Yeah. And being able to get rid of any potential fear of confrontation, which was the sort of fear where I would have massive pounding heart and have to remove myself from any situation. And I would also find myself being very, what would we call it? Predicting potential confrontations in the future a lot and trying to avoid them.
Were you having arguments with yourself in the shower?
Absolutely.
Everyone does that.
But this is the thing. But that would then stop me having any conversation with that particular person in case it went that way, So to be able to then experience a confrontation and be able to handle it calmly was like, wow, that's changed. That's completely different to how I was, And
that change probably happened well before you even noticed it. So.
Exactly, and it was literally later on that I was then in that situation where I was like, okay, that now seems like that's behind me, And this is the thing, people saying, when's that moment of change? When do we get there? It's hard to pinpoint it because normally we notice it later on down the line.
Yes, absolutely.
When we're in that triggering situation again. Yeah, and probably the last one I thought of to mention on this podcast, I have much better patience now than I used to have.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Because I get this particular change tested regularly.
I thought you were looking at me because you're like, and I'm looking at the most impatient woman in the world.
To be fair, I might well be. Mrs. I have to do it yesterday.
Do you know what? I'm not impatient in the terms of like if a parcel arrives, I don't stop everything so I can rip it open. Like I think everything has a time and a place. But I'm very much like, well, if I want to do something, I'll just do it.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. But the thing that I've noticed is that we are both very patient in terms of like managing temper.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there was a moment when we first got together, and I remember saying to you, "Okay, I'll change that."
Yeah.
Because we don't row much. To be fair, we barely have any sort of cross words, but I think that's maybe because very early on we learnt how much each other despises rowing.
Yes.
I remember thinking, like, having a disagreement with you, and me doing what I would have done in previous relationships was starting to raise my voice and getting a little bit angry because I think I'm going to have to raise my voice now to be heard. And you weren't doing it. And I was like, why aren't you rowing with me?
So I don't like this. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to participate in this.
And I honestly, I realised, that's great. That's what I want. Why would I perpetuate this response just because it was how I had to be in old relationships to go into combat or something? You know what I mean?
No, I don't. I learned that from my mum. I don't row. Like, I'll say a thing and then I'll just get quiet and I'll be like, are you finished? Are you done?
Oh, that's annoying.
I learned that from my mother.
But honestly, that's the thing that I really, so, and this is I'm 48 years old now. And when we met, I was
close to a bus pass, ladies and gents.
Well, closer than you, I'll grant you that, yeah. But this is me making a change in my 40s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And a lot of times people will say, well, I've been this way for so long, surely it's too late to change now. And, if you really want to double down on the side of you that you recognise isn't the best, then go for it. Yeah. You've always
Seems like
got
a weird thing to hold on to.
Well, exactly. Why do we cling so aggressively to the thing that causes us the most pain, I'm always up for learning that I've been doing it wrong. Because it's like, at some point that was probably... So, you know what?
Well, you even said to me about, feminist issues.
Yeah.
That you've learned a lot from me, just in passing. Not even like right, let's sit down and I'll give you this education. No, just exactly. The things I've said. And
because you get influenced by the people around you.
Absolutely.
And I'm invested in being the best version of me that makes this marriage work to its most effective. And I'm... The reason we're together is because I recognise... That's not like I've got to make vast changes either. That's just all I'm doing is enhancing the side of me that I really like anyway.
Yeah.
And trying to be the best, as I say, the best version of me I can be.
Yeah. And I think you're amazing.
Oh, thanks, Don. I think you're amazing too. Which sounds like a perfect place to end the podcast, if I'm honest, while we're agreeing with each other. So yeah, that's
final thoughts.
Final thoughts. You know what? I guess we knew what we were going to say before we started this podcast. In as much as people can change.
Yes.
If they want to.
Exactly that.
And you know what? You might be sitting there thinking, but what about these changes that would challenge my existence? Like, if you're the anxious one in the group, everyone knows that, and that's who I am within my social sector. If you're that person that has a certain way of behaving that other people behave complementarily to, it can be difficult to kind of, contemplate change because it now challenges your social interactions, your work interactions, all that sort of thing. But just always remember, change is always going to be scary because it is in some way a journey into the unknown.
Yeah.
But the scarier thing would be to never change and just stay exactly as we are right now.
There we go.
And there we go.
I do like that.
Thank you.
I think it was good. Yeah, no, I like that.
Okay. So where can people find us?
Well, thank you very much for listening, guys. You can find us, as always, on Instagram. You can find me at Britt Marie Box. You can find Tim at Timbox Mind Coach. Please do tag us. Let us know you're listening to the podcast. We love it when you guys post screenshots and tell us what you're doing when you're listening, whether you're going for a walk, whether you're doing the shopping, whatever you're doing. Let us know. Thank you very much for listening. We will be back next week with another topic.
And keep thinking outside the box.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.